So today, I wanted to take the time to talk about Activision Blizzard cutting hundreds of jobs, okay, because it's pretty important. This is going to affect the long-term outcome of a lot of different game studios. This is definitely an indicator of some of the changes that are going to be made by Activision and Blizzard, and obviously the development studios and the groups that they basically cut these jobs from. This kind of thing is important, and yes, while I definitely have some very strong opinions about games like Call of Duty that Activision have reign over, I never want to see hundreds of people lose their jobs. I never want to sit here and have to talk about something like this because it's not only depressing, but it's just sad to think about how all of these people's lives are going to be affected by them losing their jobs. So if you were not aware already, Activision Blizzard cut hundreds of jobs over the last day or so, which totals out to about 800 people losing their jobs as they are restructuring their company. 800 people having their jobs taken means that Activision Blizzard has actually cut about 8% of its workforce. That's a pretty significant cut, which is weird because actually 2018 was supposedly a record-setting year for their revenue. So during their fourth quarter earnings call with the investors, which actually was probably the same call that we got all the information and stuff about the Call of Duty game coming this year that we made a video about yesterday, they did go ahead and let investors know that they were making some changes. Pretty much from the bottom up, they're making a lot of changes with their development studios, they're restructuring a little bit, and they're trying to prioritize certain things over others, that way they can make the most money, which is something that obviously you do want to let your investors know. You want to let them know that you're making these changes because if they obviously think that these are going to be good changes that make them more money, they're going to be happy. So they did let them know that hundreds of people were going to be losing their jobs. Apparently the people being laid off were quote-unquote in non-development roles, according to Bobby Kotick, the Activision Blizzard CEO, who also said that the company will still be scaling up their development-focused positions. The reason that he really gave for a lot of this was that they saw weaker than anticipated retail demand. But we will not improve retail monetization as quickly as we liked, referring to the slow sales of microtransactions within games like Overwatch and Hearthstone. Now let's talk about this a little bit, okay? So these games are what they're using as an example for their problem, okay, that they're kind of having to deal with now. Overwatch is a 3-year-old game. Hearthstone was out in like 2014, so it's what, 5 years old at this point? You're going to have to accept that at some point these games are going to slow down. People are not going to buy as much Overwatch microtransactions as they were in 2016. These games have been out for over half a decade, and, well, I mean, if you're Hearthstone, you've been out for about half a decade at this point, but these games have been out for years nonetheless, and they're going to slow down. Games can't keep going forever. These games especially, you're not going to just keep seeing microtransaction prices as something that people are going to want to keep paying for continually over multiple years. And then let's add into the controversies that loot boxes and other microtransactions have kind of stirred up in the industry in recent years, okay? People are pretty much against microtransactions, especially people who actually play a lot of video games. You know, the casual player, yeah, they'll buy a lot of microtransactions, but, I mean, loot boxes are becoming illegal in some places. Like Belgium, I think, completely outlawed them. There's states in the United States that are trying to take efforts to consider gambling. Microtransactions altogether are something that people, it's kind of a sore spot in the gaming industry because a lot of people buy them, but a lot of gaming communities are staunchly against them, and it's caused a lot of different controversies. And that's just one aspect of why games like Overwatch would see declining microtransactions and things like that. You're just not going to get a game that's pushing 4 years old to keep pumping out money the way that it was. That's like Call of Duty. I mean, do you think people playing Infinite Warfare are still buying as much COD points as they were when the game still was first out? No, of course not. So I don't understand what you think is going to happen, but realistically, games, especially games, don't last, 25 years. Most video games, and especially with people like Activision who are constantly pumping out new titles, games are a very short-term investment. Brand new games come out literally all the time, and especially like with Activision, I mean, Call of Duty comes out yearly. They often have other titles to supplement time in between this from other franchises. It's not how video games work, you know what I'm saying? But then the weirdest thing that I saw about this whole thing was that Blizzard does not have a major quote-unquote frontline release planned for the 2019 fiscal year. So that means in 2019 we will not be seeing a new Diablo game. We will not be seeing, we won't see a new World of Warcraft. basically Blizzard is not putting out a game this year, except for that little shitty Diablo mobile game that nobody really wants or cares about. Which is insane for me to think, because when you look at all of their major franchises, I mean, I don't know about World of Warcraft or anything, but like Diablo, I don't think has had a game since, 2012? Like a mainline game, you know what I'm saying? Diablo 3, it came out in like 2012, right? Especially for a company as big as Blizzard. We're not talking about like an indie game company or something where, it takes them several years to get a game out. Blizzard has plenty of IPs. They have games, okay? And they should have a game out this year. I don't understand how they have had such bad leadership that they did not get a game ready for the entirety of 2019. Considering every single year gaming gets bigger and bigger, okay, you're missing out on probably a record-setting year for gaming, okay? Up until this point, 2019 will likely be the biggest year of gaming of all time. Every year pretty much sets the new record, so you're losing out on just billions of dollars, probably, especially if you would put out multiple games. I just don't understand that, man. How do you mess it up that badly? How do you mess up to the point where Blizzard can't put a game out? But as a result, they are attributing the lower income and revised guidance for the upcoming year to disappointing returns from the Blizzard segment of the company. No shit, disappointing. So with this being said, basically, they're going to be relying a lot on Call of Duty this year to do very well. I think that's another reason that they're redirecting a lot of their effort towards Call of Duty, because that's pretty much the biggest game Activision puts out every single year. Blizzard isn't going to have anything big coming out this year, and, that Activision's really going to be relying on that extra income. And it's going to be a problem if they don't get that, I think we can all, kind of understand that a little bit. I mean, they're already reliant on Call of Duty to begin with because it is their biggest franchise, but Blizzard completely dropped the ball by not having anything ready for 2019, not only to their fans, but also to the investors and the people in the business, They're not bringing in any revenue, really. They're not going to be bringing at least any fresh revenue, if you understand. So now Activision's going to have to work harder in order to really kind of bolster their numbers. But regardless, with these layoffs, they saw record revenues, okay? According to their report, they made $7.26 billion in overall sales compared to last year's $7.16 billion. But apparently this was them failing to meet expectations on top of that. They thought that they would do better this year. I don't know what exactly they thought they were going to do this year, but I mean, they did set a record, even if it was $0.10 billion more, you know what I'm saying? But I mean, they had a record year as a company and they're laying off almost 10% of their staff. And, it seems like the company is almost dysfunctional at this point. Activision's one half, Blizzard's one half, okay? They're supposed to be working together. They're supposed to make sure that both of them have fresh titles ready and that they're both doing their part. But Blizzard is not carrying their weight at this point, it seems to me. They will, however, be working on their in-house products like Call of Duty, Overwatch, etc. by 20% by really kind of pushing those more and putting a lot more emphasis and focus behind these. Funding this will come through deprioritizing initiatives that are not meeting expectations and reducing certain non-development and administrative related costs across the business. I just think it's insane that a company so big that posted record numbers, that owns so many massive franchises in gaming, has to cut 10% of their employees. And it's sad, man, it really is. As much crap as I give Call of Duty, and as much crap as I give them or Activision really, for their handling of the game, I never want to see 10% of their company literally lose their jobs. And here's the crazy thing about this whole thing to me, okay? The craziest part about this whole thing is that they had to cut 800 people, but Activision's bigwigs definitely aren't giving up their bonuses. That's $15 million a year to, I think, the CEO. Okay, so yeah, they're not giving up their bonuses of tens of millions of dollars. However, 800 hardworking common folk are now on the streets with no job. And I will, of course, leave links down below to any possible employees. If you're watching this, you can look at that down below. It's a Google Doc. It's got literally pretty much every company in gaming and in the relative scene, really, that is hiring. So go get you a job, you know what I'm saying? But this whole thing is just psychotic to me. I don't understand how bad you have to mismanage everything. And that mismanagement, of course, isn't punished. I mean, the bigwigs, like I said, are taking home tens of millions in bonuses, but, they're the reason that almost 1,000 people lost their job. I mean, this is the kind of thing about gaming that you hate to see. Okay, you hate to see these companies with these fat cats just screwing everything up, and then hundreds of people are just out. It's horrible to see. I mean, I wish these employees the best of luck. I would hate to be in that situation, and like I said, there are resources down below for you to use if you are somehow watching this, but the pressure is kind of mounting on Activision at this point. The pressure is mounting on Blizzard. They're going to have to really perform, and honestly, I think at this point we're going to see Activision's profits dip this year, actually. With a lot of these changes coming and everything, especially being a Call of Duty fan, I think it's going to be a different year, because they're making a lot of changes. Apparently, they're bolstering the internal communication between the development studios. They're talking about a city franchising for Call of Duty World League, as far as I understand. I mean, they're making a lot of changes, really, to kind of, I guess, make money on what they have now. Obviously, we saw the split with Bungie and Destiny. I don't know how that's going to hurt their sales or their profits or anything, but all I know is that this is a bad situation, and it's even worse for the people who got fired. I mean, I hope Activision and Blizzard can kind of turn it around. I hope they figure it out, you know, because I don't want to see more people getting fired. And at the end of the day, I love games like COD, so I don't want to see them just completely fall under or anything. So, of course, let me know what you think about this down below. I mean, a lot of you are obviously Call of Duty fans. A lot of my channel videos really revolve around Call of Duty. Let me know what you think about all this down below. Thank you guys, as always, for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're brand new around here on my channel. Follow me on Twitter at @SubToOptimus. I post memes, thoughts, and updates over there. It is also a surefire way to get live notifications for all my brand new content. This is yet again, really, another horror story of the gaming industry. It is a cutthroat industry, and it's hard to survive sometimes, especially when the people above you don't know how to manage things. But hey, thank you guys for watching, and until my next video, guys, this is Optimus, getting fired from Activision, and signing out.